You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Lohman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Lohman.
Hey, welcome everybody to the House of Sunny podcast. We've been away for a while. We're back. We've got a lot to cover, so we're actually going to do a long show today that we're going to break up into three parts. Three parts, I think. We'll see how it goes. And welcome my co-host, Doug, from The Rational Capitalist.
Hello, Sunny.
What's up, Doug?
Not
lots,
too much.
Not too much, lots, except a lot.
Not much going on, so it's been kind of quiet.
Well, so in the show today, you know, I know everybody out there, I feel like I'm on an emotional roller coaster with what's going on in this country. And one minute I'm angry, the next minute I'm sad, the next minute I'm trying to be sort of optimistic and hopeful and look at it in a different way. And then the next thing I know, I'm really negative. Just a lot of feelings, which is totally appropriate for what we're seeing and all the different, there is so much to talk about and unpack here. I hate that term. I'm going to unpack this. That's a Silicon Valley pretentious way of saying something, but yeah, I do feel like I'm freaking unpacking like a really giant suitcase with a lot of stuff. And
definitely.
So what we're going to do, because it's so complex, is we're going to scooch back in time and start pre cop brutality incident and go back to the coronavirus for just a minute and give basically the current state and also just some thoughts that I have been having on that since before all of this that I've been wanting to talk about but couldn't because I was too sick. And I was in the hospital. I should probably mention that. I was in the hospital. I've been really, really sick. And when I got out, I'm like, I have to like not have any stress because I have to heal and I have to recover, and stress has a direct impact on any autoimmune disease. It's a trigger. So I got out and I was in the hospital. I didn't really watch any news. I was watching food shows the whole time, and got out, didn't really watch news, and then I got sucked back. I tried to get up to date on the coronavirus in the last week because it's important for me to understand my risks, and you know, the lockdowns were opening up, and I've got people in my household that I have to kind of be concerned about their level of exposure because then they come home and they bring it home. So I needed to get up to date on that, and then of course the whole thing went down and I got sucked in, and I basically spent the entire day yesterday just reviewing this situation and watching videos and commentary and reading news on it. And it was maybe the most stressful day I've had in a long time. Just really upsetting. A lot of the videos that have come out, I mean, there are videos I refuse to watch. I have yet to watch the video of the cop brutality video. I can't even watch that. There was one of a white store owner, I guess, who had a sword. I never saw the sword, but then he got pounced on and then he's laying crumpled on the ground. I watched that and I wish I hadn't. There's just stuff, it just stays with me. Just like it's imprinted on my brain forever. And it's too stressful, but I'm not going to do that again this week. I'm just going to lightly follow the news this week. Still trying to keep my stress down. I am not completely healed, so that's where I'm at, but how are you feeling these days?
Probably the same. You know, you picked a great time to look for a stress-free environment.
I know, right?
Yeah, it is a roller coaster. And, you know, it seems like we have, like you said, in terms of unpacking, as we've got this, it's like a television episode.
Right.
Or a television series.
Yeah.
Where you have this long story arc throughout a season kind of going on in the background. And then you've got these local conflicts that take place in the hour of that actual show.
Right. The subplots.
So you're trying to figure out the subplots and the show going on like right now in front of your face. But then there's this like big picture going on in the background and so that's the way I look at it.
That's a very good way to look at it. That's exactly what it's like. There are all these little things to talk about and comment on. Each one of those things could be their own show. And it's happening so fast, the news, and then the coronavirus and, the election year, and there are all these very large, long range, big picture things that all of these little things really impact. So,
right.
Okay, so let's get started. The coronavirus. So we've never really addressed some of these conspiracy theories that are out there. And I just want to say, and Doug, you can weigh in. We haven't talked about this really closely lately, but, at the beginning in January, I could see what was happening. I saw it coming. I think it was a risk. It was a danger. I still believe that it's a really bad disease. I still wish it would have been kept out, but now more realistically, I'm looking at it and thinking that was probably impossible.
Yeah.
So it's here. It is a nasty disease. No question. I mean, young and old people are dying of it. Old people are dropping like flies. Yeah. Nursing homes are like, oh my God, if I were in a nursing home, I would be scared to death.
Yeah, for sure.
So it is a real thing, and it's new, which means that if you're exposed to it, you're pretty likely to get it. If you do get it, you're likely to have a mild case. So that's great. But it's not just the people who die from it, but there is a percentage of people who have a very severe case, and that's a pretty big percentage. It's still like 20%. And those people can have permanent physical damage. So it's not nothing. Everybody's focused on the death rates and anyone out there who's still an idiot comparing it to the flu, honestly, I don't know, are you watching CCP propaganda? Like, how can you even be in that box anymore? I'm sorry, I hate to insult people that probably are listening to the show, and probably I have friends who think that and who still say that shit online and everything, and I'm like, really? I don't know what to say about that. People, there is no immunity. There's no protection. It's going to be rampant in our world. And when people get it, a lot of people get really, really sick. And a good portion of them, not a good portion, but a significant and unfortunate portion of them die. So, and we still don't really know the long-term effects with the mild case. There's been, other weird things. And then it's just become really difficult to trust anybody and what anybody's saying. I mean, it has become so political on both sides that it's difficult to get news about it.
Yeah, what's troubling is that it's fundamentally a scientific question that involves a lot of scientific thinking. And if you had good faith, benevolent society and rational political actors, which might be an oxymoron, you could understand, hey, there's a concern here. Let's think about this. Let's, try and do the best thing we can with the knowledge we have, which was where we would have been several months ago. And as this thing has evolved, rather than that approach, it's just morphed into a total political meltdown, and it's hard to even know who is telling the truth, like what agendas they have. You've got the conflation of the political with these governors and their power grabs versus, and so you've got the Fauci, the global sort of health mafia.
Yeah, the health mafia that I'm now aware of. The corrupt big pharma plus government agency mafia gang plus Bill Gates. That is not a funny conspiracy theory. That guy has established himself as a world health, he has a monopoly on world health, guys. That is real. Yeah. He owns the agencies and the nonprofits and the for-profits. He's got everything sewed up. And he is how a private individual is the second largest contributor to the World Health Organization, I don't know. Because he bought that authority. And then he goes into Africa and India and injects groups of disadvantaged children with drugs. So, like, if you think that the Gates thing is still a conspiracy, like, go look that up. Honestly, I just can't help you. That is such a big, when you see even just a few facts, these are facts out in the open. These are not things you have to even wonder, is that true? But when you see the facts of that and the facts of Fauci and his conflict of interest, and even Bricks, whose daughter works for is on the Bill Gates Foundation board or something, or she's an employee or something, like a high level employee in the Bill Gates Foundation. There is a world health mafia, and they are running healthcare in the world. And I didn't know that. I knew that things were bad in healthcare because I'm dealing with it every damn day of my life. But now I kind of understand more what's going on and why there's so little thinking in that industry. It's become very political and very fascist, because you have corporations working with government to basically push their agendas onto sick people. And healthy people in the form of vaccines. That's coming for you. The health mafia, and then when you have those people lying to you and contradicting themselves and changing their story every 2 weeks. And what's disturbing is they get away with it because the media helps them. You know, once again, the media helps them. Although let's say the legacy media helps them. I think more people are aware of what's going on now because we have this new media that is exposing all this crap. So that's the good news, as I think more people know what's going on.
Yeah, because I think in years past, you probably would have just, had to buy the narrative hook, line, and sinker. There's certainly a lot of people pushing back. At the same time, it's hard to know what to, I'm not a medical expert. I'm not dealing with, I'm not doing experiments, on this stuff. So, you at some point you have to make a decision for yourself as an individual as to what you're going to do. If you have children and you're going to send them to a school, or, you're going to go to a workplace, or you're going to go and visit your parents in a nursing home or whatever. I mean, you got to decide how you're going to act and behave. And you've got contradictory information constantly coming out. And at the same time, that's existing in this, milieu of this political, conflict where you've got the left saying, or I don't know if it's the left. I think it tends to be liberals who have this reverence for science in almost a religious way, as opposed to a rationally skeptical way, and by that I mean, if people are, whatever a scientist says is sort of like hallowed truth that can't be questioned. Because
it's only their scientists that they follow. So it's their priests, it's Catholics versus Protestants or something. Because the hydroxychloroquine argument is proof that it's not science or scientists that they're interested in. It's just, what's my leader telling me to think today? And 2 weeks ago, my leader told me masks don't work. But now he's saying masks work, so I'm going to become a mask Nazi and yell at somebody who's outside 50 feet away from me, who's not wearing a mask, that they're a horrible person, which apparently is happening in New York City. I'm getting reports from my friends that if you're in the park 20 feet away from anyone, this girl of my acquaintance, she was in the park, in Central Park or something, nowhere near anybody, wearing a mask. She got a call, so she pulled her mask down to take the call from her boss or something. And as she's on the phone, she's getting yelled at by some person, screamed at. You're killing people. Put your mask on. Like, okay, so that side has gone insane. But they're just, again, it's like you said, it's a religion. It's like, burn the witch, It's really creepy.
And I thought I think I had sent you this, Sonny, a few weeks ago. There was like a really good example of this that I thought displayed everything. It was sort of someone had posted some meme or something, and it was like, well, we were able to beat back the stupid rubes for 6 weeks, But unfortunately now they've been, this is before the looting and everything. This was like when people were starting to really protest and just say, screw this, we're going to go to work and we're not going to listen to these experts anymore.
We're going to the beach and stuff like that.
And the tone of the meme was, we're these central planning experts that know what's best for everybody. And all these stupid Trump voting, rubes are going to, we controlled them for a few weeks. We controlled the stupid people for a few weeks, but now I guess there's nothing we can do about it. And to me, that was like the essence of all this acrimony is, these people just want to control other people, and they hate when people question authority and they question and push back.
Their authority.
And
then they're very freaked out about any authority on the other side. They're very much on their team. I don't know. It is really a mental problem. But then on our side, I've been super disturbed by the people who have said, well, I either have to accept this authoritarian nightmare, or I have to deny that there's a virus. Or that masks work, to stop a sneeze. Are you for freaking real? And honestly, that is a huge mistake, because if you can't defend liberty in an emergency, what the hell do you have? What kind of system of ideas do you have if you can't understand that you can be free in an emergency? You can still be free, and you can have a proper government that protects you and helps you but keeps you free. How the hell are you ever going to have freedom? Because every 2 months there's an emergency. So you got to get it. You got to figure it out. It's like life, Life is hard. Life is just like one obstacle and conflict after another. I sound like Jordan Peterson. Life is suffering.
Yes, I was going to say that.
But it is, though. I mean, it's challenges. I mean, you can look at it however you want, but when have you ever in your life not had a challenge or a difficulty that you're solving? That's what life is. And if you expect it to just be this sort of perfect freedom utopia, that is a huge mistake. I think that is honestly the mental, psychological, libertarian mistake. It's the same one the leftists want that utopia, the libertarian wants the utopia. And so they have a hard time with the nuance of real life.
That's such a great point.
So
it's a form of perfectionism.
Yeah.
Idealism, and it's psychologically devastating. How could you go through life thinking, if I could just get this one thing,
if we could just
the
line
world
up,
would be perfect.
Yeah, if the government would just follow the Constitution, I would be super successful and life would be great and there'd be no stress. And no, that isn't how it works. And there will never be a perfect government. And I think the founders understood this. And this is why we have all of this checks and balances. This is why we're a republic. I mean, the whole point is that it's messy, because people working together are messy. And it's going to be hard. And then when you have something like this, unfortunately, if we were more of a local republic still, I think that it would be handled much better. And legally, in a lot of ways, we are, and yet people are like, it's all Trump's fault, which is so, everything's Trump's fault, but they don't want him to be the authoritarian, but they want him to step in and solve all the problems, and then they blame him when all the problems are, and yet it's really, your local governments actually matter. Your governor and your sheriff and your, I'm finding that my city council matters, because I can't, I'm super sick. I live in Laguna Beach. I can go to the beach and I can vigorously exercise on the beach, but I can't sit on the fucking beach.
What?
And I don't have, you can't stop. They won't let you stop. Okay? And I don't have the stamina. So I would really like to go enjoy the beach. But if I stop, I get harassed.
What if you had a carousel? If you had a carousel, like, and you were just spinning in a circle, is that technically compliant? Because you're not stopping.
Yeah.
You're in the same space, though.
You know, so. and you can't go there on a wheelchair or anything that would help you express that you're disabled or that you can't do this. And there's no way for me to enjoy the freaking ocean right now. So
you should disguise yourself as a rioter. I think you.
Yeah. Blackface. I should go in blackface and then they won't hassle me. So actually that's a really good idea. No, just honestly, that would work. And that's the sad, we'll get into that in part 2 of this show when we talk about what's going on now. But so this.
Yeah. So what matters is local.
The city council, like Laguna Beach is that way. But if I go one beach up, I can do whatever I want. So, like the Newport Beach City Council and Mayor is like, screw you, Gavin Newsom. And Laguna Beach is like, Gavin Newsom is such a great guy. Like, I can't wait for him to tell us what we can do next. And nice. And God bless Gavin, whatever Newsom. And he's doing so much. And thank you. And let us know when we can go back to normal. And everything they put out is an ass-kissing 5 paragraphs. It's so pathetic.
Gross.
And I'm realizing, okay, I'm in a small town. 10,000 people live in my town. I can get involved. You know? Yeah,
that's such the right lesson. Is so much is local. It's all local.
It's all local.
This distraction with Trump and everything is so stupid. We'll get into this more with the riots, but how much clearer can it be that what's going on locally in your town and city is really what affects your life?
Yeah.
The Trump stuff is such a sideshow.
And it does have an impact, but I think it's more of a trickle down. And it trickles down locally, and that's why we have such crappy local governments. But that's where we have to start, I think. We have to, or just at least, and we've said this on previous shows. I think we said it in the last show. You have to get involved locally, as well as nationally. I tend to get bored locally, but it's something you've got to do if you're going to take the country back. So, okay, so back to the point. The virus is real, everybody. And then after Memorial Day, there's been some spikes in cases, which is going to lead to spikes in deaths. And the lockdown's opening up, and all these riots and all these people outside are going to lead to more cases and more deaths. And honestly, I feel like it's a freaking playbook, because I feel like the right has been manipulated by the left to deny the virus exists, not wear masks, go out and be stupid so that there can be a second wave right before the election and they get crushed. This masks don't work stuff. Honestly, if the Russians didn't come up with this, it smacks of such stupid propaganda. I swear it's from the CCP or something, or the Dems. But who would have thought the right would fall for that? Masks don't work. Masks are a tool of your submission. How about we back up? You guys, if you sneeze and you're wearing a mask, it blocks the sneeze. It's a physical barrier. I can see with my own eyes that it works. I don't understand you. I don't know what you're saying. And if you look at the countries who have cultures that wear masks, they're not in lockdown like we are. There aren't as many, the Taiwans, the Japans, the Czech Republic did this big masks. I wear a mask to protect you, you wear a mask to protect me campaign. And they did this big mask thing. And they've just almost eliminated cases. Their cases just plummeted. And, I realize people are throwing around studies that show that masks don't work. Just go look at one of these things where they're like infrared tracking the spittle coming out of your mouth, or the aerosolization of your germs. You can see it in like a certain video. And they have all those out on the internet. People talking, people coughing, people sneezing, people singing, like all these different versions with and without a mask. Just go look at that. It's physical. It's perceptually evident. Masks work. So I am all for no lockdowns, all for it. But you guys like this, but let's protect the vulnerable. The way you do that is you wear a mask, whether you have a goddamn sniffle or not. Because we also know something like half of the contagion is when people are asymptomatic. So you're not sick, or you don't feel sick, you don't know you're sick, and you're out there spreading it by talking, by yelling, by just standing talking to somebody in their face. You don't have to sneeze, you don't have to cough, you don't have to be symptomatic. And then you spread it to, say, somebody in my household who's out in the grocery store shopping for me, and they bring it home, and then they infect me. I'm the vulnerable. So the way to protect me is to wear a goddamn mask when you're inside interacting with people.
Right. It doesn't seem that hard.
No matter whether you're sick or not. If everybody does that, then the vulnerable are protected. I mean, people like me who live in a household, I have to worry about what to do with my child because she's 5, and I honestly, am I going to ruin her life and keep her at home for a year? Or, like, what do I do? I'm really struggling with that. God, I'm struggling with that. She's 5. There's no way to control her. If she's out there, she's going to get it. And then she'll bring it home. What I need is a stash of hydroxychloroquine, but I can't get it because pharmacists have been told only if you have a positive COVID diagnosis. So I'm not allowed to take it prophylactically. I think that's one way you could protect the vulnerable. It clearly works. Study after study after study that uses it prophylactically or before any serious condition. It's like a miracle. And I live in a blue state, so it's difficult, but I don't know, I'm going to try to get it from Canada. I'm working on that. I want it in my medicine cabinet, and I want to send it to my mom. So you only need 5 days of it. Like, you get a little tickle, you take a Z-Pack, you take that, you take zinc, and it protects you from the severe case. Protects you from having it move into the rest of your body. So the other thing is these nursing homes, and this is where we could really use like a CDC. If the CDC put a person in every nursing home who could enforce just really basic common sense, someone gets symptomatic, basic common sense interactions, everybody's wearing masks. If somebody shows symptoms, they're separated, isolated. They get their own nurse, or like you have to limit people aren't moving between people. Sick, old people, so that they could spread it from one patient to another. Food is handled differently. That it's really important. I think this is an IQ issue, to be honest, or it's information and IQ, but I was just in the hospital for a week, and even there, it was like you could see that there were people who really understood and were really careful, and I felt really safe around them. And then there are people who, they're doing their best, but their masks are falling down. They're, like in my case, the rule was in my room, and I was on the wing with the oncology wing because I am immune suppressed, and people who have cancer are immune suppressed. So they put us in a place with heightened protocols for coronavirus. And no one was allowed in my room without a mask on, so that I didn't have to wear a mask 24/7. So everyone that came in was wearing a surgical mask. And then there was a curtain put sort of after the entryway that was always pulled. The door was always shut. And if doctors would come in, and they would stand at the curtain and talk to me. Or the nurse would stand at the curtain. They didn't come all the way into the room anymore. They would sort of keep a distance unless they needed to actually physically examine me or touch me or something. They didn't do it. So there was a really a great sense of safety in there, although I used so much hand sanitizer. I had a jug of hand sanitizer just on my table next to my bed. And I swear to God, my hands turned into stumps, crusty stumps, because I was so freaked out, But one guy couldn't seem to figure it out, and that was the guy serving my food. So this guy's from the kitchen. He probably didn't get the memo, didn't get the meeting. It hasn't really been like driven home to him because he doesn't work in the oncology department wing. He works in the kitchen. So he comes up, and every time, man, his loose fitting surgical mask is falling down. He's right over my food, and 2 feet from me. And I ended up like, I'm a total Karen, man. I said something because I'm not going to get coronavirus.
Right.
I didn't get him in trouble. I asked the nurse on the oncology wing to talk to him and tell him what he needs to do, what the rules are, because I don't think he knew. I'm not mad at him. He was such a nice guy, and I talked to him about it, and then I talked to her about it. I said he needs training. That's it. He just needs to know how to wear his mask so it doesn't fall off his face while he's working. And the poor guy was working so hard, and he's like sweating, and it's falling all over the place. So anyway, but okay, so in nursing homes, you have kind of not the cream of the crop. And we all know that. A lot of these nursing homes are run by, there are levels, like anything else. There are really great ones, and there are cheaper ones where you get cheaper staff, and they don't have as high IQ. The training's not going to be as good. The management's not as good. The CDC needs to be in every one of those places so they can say, oh, here's what we're going to do. Here's what you're going to do. And they can train these people. Because a lot of it that's it. It's just communication and training. But they can't get their head out of their ass to even decide if a mask works. Yeah. And what kind. And hydroxychloroquine. And they're like the freaking enemy. I wouldn't want the CDC anywhere near me.
Yeah.
So what do? It's really, there's no protecting the vulnerable without an on-site person who's capable of training and pushing and being the Karen in the place and saying, you're not doing it right, you need more training, whatever. And that I think is how you protect people in there. How you protect me is somebody get me an N95 mask.
Yeah.
Why can't I have one of those so that I can go to the store? And why can't I have one of those to give my daughter so she can go to the store and I don't have to worry about kissing her that night? I'm trying not to be too paranoid, but I cannot buy an N95 mask to save my life because China scooped all the ones up from this country. And then after that, hospitals and government have been hoarding them. So they are not for me. They are only for nurses and doctors, apparently, who are working with coronavirus patients. And I really appreciate that. That's a higher risk, and I want them to be safe. But they're also hoarding them. So we need to start deciding that we have to allow Americans to be able to buy them. Somehow, I don't know, somebody help me out with that one. Solve that one for me. I want my whole household. I actually have a box of the construction ones. And I am down to 2. I had 10, I'm down to 2. I've been using them for the last 3 months. My caretakers have been using them, and we're down to 2. We have 2 left. Now
I think 3M makes the N95s.
Yep.
So what's going on there? Are they manufacturing them?
You can't buy one from them. Just Google it. You get these weird fake Chinese ones that aren't N95. They don't say N95. They say N95, and then you go to the site and it says KN95, and you're like, what's a KN95?
It's like buying a Rolex the streets of New York.
It is totally. Rolex says the link.
Boy, this seems like Rolex, a really good deal on this Rolex.
That's right.
It's only $50.
$50 for a KN95 mask. Whatever the fuck that is, China. I'm not falling for it. Not falling for it. So that is a problem. And as these lockdowns open up, and all you yahoos out there who won't wear masks, now you're going to go spew your germs inside, and you're going to spread it to my caretakers who don't have N95 masks. And they're going to bring it home to me. So thanks very much. I appreciate that. Just wear a goddamn mask inside, please. Honestly. It's not a tool of your submission. It's a tool of your compassion for people like me.
Yeah.
God damn it.
It's funny. That's such a false alternative that you can't, it's either total anarchy and, well, not anarchy. I shouldn't say that. It's denying any level of precaution whatsoever, or, you're a tool of the global, I don't know, whatever, that are trying to make you wear this symbol of your oppression. I mean, I think that's kind of stupid.
There's no doubt that there are oppressors here. There are oppressors here, and there are people grabbing power, and there are conspiracies going on. There's no question that that's happening. But that's not the basis on which you decide whether or not to wear a mask. As a symbol of your defiance, you're going to kill somebody? Potentially?
Yeah, like all these things can be true. Like, you can have a serious virus that's dangerous, in which a mask helps protect yourself as well as others. And you can have power-lusting, nefarious politicians grabbing for power and trying to rule you. Like, all those things can happen at the same time.
Yeah, and maybe they're over in the corner watching you in a mask going, so what? That's not the basis of how you make a decision. You don't make a decision in your life about what those people are doing. You have to be objective. That means you look at reality. You don't look at people and decide what to do. I mean, they are facts of reality too, but you need, the mask is about a disease. So ask about what is the deal with the disease and what's the right thing to do for my neighbors and myself. And yes, you should consider your neighbors. You live in a society. And I know you don't want people to die, most of you. Although I gotta say, I'm from a unique perspective because I'm one of these people that everyone talks about when they say, well, they would have died anyway. They're like half dead. That's why they're dying of the coronavirus. So what, I'm supposed to wear a mask over someone who's half dead? I assure you I'm not half dead. I mean, I was in the hospital. I'm sick. I have a chronic illness, but I'm not ready to die. I'm middle-aged and I have a 5-year-old. And I wouldn't have died anyway. If I get coronavirus and die, I would not have died anyway because of my underlying condition, because I'm not in danger of dying from it right now.
There's also a question of risk reward too, which is if someone says we're going to lock down the entire economy and no one can go out of their house, there's a huge cost to that. So, you have to say, what is the risk of not doing that versus the reward of doing that? And I think we would both agree that that's probably not a very good risk reward trade-off. However, wearing a mask, the risk reward is kind of in your favor. It's kind of easy to do. It's not like someone's saying, we need you to whip yourself in the back, to give yourself 50 lashes a day to help your neighbor or to protect yourself. It's like, put a stupid piece of cloth over your face for a couple months.
When you go
it's
in the
not
store,
that hard.
Right? Or when you're at your job or whatever. And however, I have seen. I mean, the increasingly desperate justification for not wearing a mask is laughable. And I've seen actual studies shared that says if you wear, and I think the CDC even said this, and Fauci said this, and if you're taking your advice from those people, think about that, people on the right. This is what the Fauci and CDC were saying 2 months ago, and this is what you've grasped onto as justification, that if you wear a mask, you're more likely to get coronavirus because you're touching your face more or something.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
I can assure you that is not true, number one. Number two, you're actually trainable. You're not a freaking idiot. Don't touch your freaking face.
There's a reason why doctors wear masks in surgery.
And have for 100 years.
I mean, it's not that complicated.
But
they're not perfect, by the way. That doesn't mean...
It doesn't mean it's 100%.
It's possible that if you're not wearing it right, or you pick at it, or, you're touching it, and there's all these ways in which the mask can fail, therefore it's stupid to wear it. Well, okay, it's not perfect, but, is it 80% better?
Again, with the perfection worship, yeah.
It is. It's total opinism.
I can assure you, sitting in the hospital, I broke myself in those 6 days of touching my face. Maybe for the rest of my life. Because I didn't touch it. I maybe touched it 2 times without a tissue between my finger and my face. I was so paranoid because, of course, I'm like a sitting duck. I'm like basically in a nursing home. I realized that, And
I love touching my face.
You do? You like picking your nose and...
Oh, God. So, I just grip it and just rip it,
Before the lockdown, my daughter is in ballet. Before the lockdown, I took her to ballet, and I can watch her through this window. And it's kind of in an Asian area, and it's this really closed-in, stuffy ballet studio.
Oh.
And she's in the room with a bunch of Chinese kids.
Oh, no.
And my daughter's laying on the floor, and then she's like, because she got tired. She's 5. And then she's picking her nose. I'm watching her pick her boogers and eat them.
Oh, yeah,
and I'm just like, oh, for crying out loud. There's just nothing I can do. I'm watching her get every germ in there. And this was I knew the virus was out there, and I said, this is the last class we're going to, because as community spread is getting bigger, I just can't trust this. And it was like, that was the last ballet class, and 2 weeks later I didn't let her go to school, like the school field trip to the zoo. I'm like, no, because I know that she'll eat her fingers while she's there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But you can learn, you're an adult, you can learn to not touch your mask, not touch your face. And I honestly, if you do touch your mask, there's a cloth between your mask, your finger and your face. So how exactly does that spread it? I don't understand. It's so dumb. And you're not a monkey. So let's move on from that. Masks work. Wear a mask when you're in an enclosed space. That's it. End of story. Okay. That's how you protect the vulnerable. And stop with please, I'm begging you, stop with it's just old people. It's just the chronically ill. I'm ill. I'm one of those people. Your parents are the old people. It's unbelievably callous. And people get really upset when they're accused of not caring about people when they say that. But that actually is a demonstration that you don't care about people. You have to stop and think about that. Because you are talking about your neighbors and your parents and your grandparents and me and people like me. That's who we are talking about. So you are being callous. And you deserve to hear that.
So, there's the mask issue. So, what about the whole lockdown idea? Because a lot of those people that have pushed back have said, oh, I'm not going to stay at home. There's a question as to whether staying at home is even, or locking down is even beneficial. A lot of studies seem to indicate that it's not beneficial.
It seems to not be beneficial because people are the lockdown wasn't, you can't do a Chinese style lockdown where you're actually nailing people into their homes where they starve to death. And I think they had other measures in place where one person from your household was allowed to leave the house twice a week, and that's it. We didn't have that kind of stuff. So, which I don't think you can have here. It really is the risk reward thing you were talking about. It is too much loss of freedom for Americans and for basic civil rights. I supported the 2-3 week stay home as much as possible thing. Don't go to work. School's closed. Just so that the government could get organized, and then they didn't. So I'm like, well, there's no point to this.
Yeah.
And the cost benefit thing, again, it's not worth it. And I think 2-3 weeks wouldn't have been much damage. Again, with the cost, I don't see that would have, yes, there would have been damage. But to slow down community spread so the government could start testing and whatever they were going to do, which they didn't do. So, okay, I don't see any reason to keep people home. Do you?
No, I mean, I think we all...
It's not worth it.
When this originally came down, and the information we had at the time was what was going on in China and what was going on in Europe. And, you know, you had a lot of really smart medical people here saying, you know, hey, this is super dangerous. This could spread. This could kill millions of people. So, and we know, unlike, you know, climate science or some of the modeling that's really pie in the sky or that's like 100 years out, models of epidemiology and viral spreads is pretty well known. I mean, you know, you can model with varying degrees of accuracy. You can model the spread of virus. I mean, there's, you know, like when we say a video goes viral, there's like, people know what that means. You know, things grow exponentially and they grow through contact with these particles and whatever. So, I mean, I felt I understood enough at that point to say, okay, I didn't want to send my kid to school. I mean, I remember at the time when this was happening, I mean, I had a decision to make because the school was saying, well, we don't know what we're going to do, but right now school's in session. So I had to decide whether I was going to send a young child to school or children to school. And, you know, at that point, what do you do? Well, why don't I just keep them home? I mean, if someone has the virus at the school and they get it and they bring it home, then I'm going to get it and my kid's going to get it. And, you know, at that point, it looked like a lot of people were dying from it, you know, and like they were burning bodies in Wuhan and stuff, you know. So anyways, 2-3 months ago, I mean, I was like, okay, let's close the schools down for a couple. Let's figure out what the hell this thing is.
Yeah, we needed time. We didn't have enough information. There was some scary stuff out there. The government was caught with its pants down.
Yeah, and you couple this with, you know, the fact that we had outsourced production to China of a lot of the medications and the supply chains and everything. I mean, there was clearly like
stole $2 billion of, you know, PPE in January so that we didn't have any, and Barack Obama didn't restock the emergency PPE after H1N1, and, you know, on and on. Freaking comedy of errors.
And you're getting contradictory, you know, claims coming out of these official organizations. And, you know, you'd ask different doctors and they'd tell you different things. But I think most doctors I had talked to at the time or people in medical were basically saying, yeah, this is pretty dangerous. And my reaction is, I'm going to stay inside. I'm going to stay at home. I'm not going to expose myself to huge groups of people who could have this virus or who are coming in from overseas. Just that seems totally obvious to me. And it seemed totally obvious that it was reasonable to do things like shut down schools and, you know, and once you start shutting down schools, the way our system works is we have a public education system. And when people are working, like most parents drop their kids off at school and then go to work.
Right.
So you have all these knock-on, really complicated effects here. And I just don't, you know, it's just a problem. It's not, there's no utopian solution. Like we should have just done this, or we should have, you know, sometimes life just fucking sucks.
Right.
And
that is such a good point.
Like sometimes your fucking house burns down
this is bad.
And you're just shit out of luck.
Yeah,
you know,
your house
this is
burns
just a
down,
bad thing.
Your house burns down. There's no way of fixing that, really. You have to just move on with the shitty situation that you have. And that's what we're in. This was going to hurt no matter what. The virus itself hurts. You know, causes problems.
Yeah, like a hurricane destroying Miami, that's a problem. You know, it's not anyone's fault that the hurricane hit. It's just part of human life. And yes, could we have prepared for the hurricane? Could we have done things different? Should we have built the buildings better to be, you know, all that stuff? Yeah, of course. But this is the hand we're dealt, and this is what you got to do right now. And then, okay, now as more information comes in and we can update our viewpoint, and this is where things got political.
Yeah.
Because, you know, new information is coming in. Okay, well, let's listen to all these new let's listen to everyone. Let's listen to doctors that are countering the narrative. And now you get the central planner mindset saying, don't listen to anyone who's not parroting the Fauci narrative or the CDC narrative or whatever. So then you start getting these, this political effect of, no, suppress anyone who's saying something different, who are saying, no, we don't need to lock down, we don't need to do this. My view was, no, open the floor. Like, everyone should be talking, right, and scientists should be communicating as much as possible, doing as much research as possible, and the most way out theories should be entertained and studied and tested. The
craziest stuff should be looked at. I want to know what Alex Jones thinks.
Yeah, right.
I need everybody's ideas.
Yeah,
that's how we win. And it should have been like an American can-do kind of, we can actually beat this thing. I actually think that we could beat this thing. I think if we weren't so partisan, if we would wear masks, and if we would embrace the this is something for both sides. Please, left, embrace hydroxychloroquine. Oh my God. Hydroxychloroquine. Please, right, embrace masks. Ta-da!
Yeah, I mean,
and I think going forward, what we're going to see, because the lockdowns, the riots, for God's sake, like, there's no lockdown. There's no lockdown anymore. Half of the country was outside looting. With, although they were very respectfully wearing masks. It's nice to see that. Thank you.
Yeah, and distancing. By the way, I think a lot of people listening to this podcast now are probably like, what are you talking about COVID for? Like, that's last week's news. That's not even in the headlines anymore.
Right. Well, it's still out there, and we still have to be concerned about it. Big picture, and this is sort of why I'm bringing this up, I actually think there's a second wave coming, and politically we're going to have to deal with that. So Liberty people need to figure out how to deal with a very serious crisis like that, an emergency that gives some legitimacy to these authoritarians and what they want to do, and tell them how to do that without being authoritarians. Like, accept the reality of it without allowing the civil liberty violations.
Well, and it bolsters your own credibility if you can reason your way through a complex set of factors like this and say, this is how liberty-loving people would handle a crisis like this.
Yeah.
It's not, we don't say, oh, anarchy, just do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, no masks. I'm going to go out and drink in the bar and not wear a mask because I'm not a tool of the oppression.
Yeah, I mean, you totally crush any credibility with, like, reasonable people. So
masks
if you say,
don't work, makes you look like I don't know, man. I have friends who are on that side, and I love them, and I'm sitting here with my jaw on the floor. Like, what? Of course masks work. So stop it.
Just say, look, and let's put COVID aside. You could even say to yourself, I don't believe COVID. I think COVID's the flu, and it's a hoax, and it's a conspiracy, and it's nothing. Okay, imagine there was a virus that was, like, actually really dangerous, that could kill a lot of people. Just imagine that scenario. Like, what would you have us all do?
Yeah.
Maybe that'll happen in 5 years,
Yeah.
But just, like, you have to have an answer for this.
Step back and have an answer, because the second wave is coming, everybody. This thing is out there. It's a novel virus. It spreads exponentially. There's community spread in our country. It's going to happen. I think. I mean, maybe I'll be wrong. I could be wrong. This thing could die in the summer, But
what if China unleashed a new virus on us? I mean, what if something else leaks out in 10 years?
Honestly, anything is possible even this year, because I feel like, and we'll get into this in part 2 and 3 here, holy crap. I'm not, like, we're being set up for massive failure this year. So we need to be prepared, and you need to be prepared to defend freedom in a second wave. So we have to have that solution. All right, so let's move into part 2 now. This is part 1. Part 2 is going to be on a separate podcast. We're going to move now into what has happened, the issue with George Floyd, what happened with the police there, the incident that sparked the riots, I don't even want to say that. I feel like it could have been anything. And then we'll get into that in part 2. So join us over there.
There's a house called the House of Sunny. It's filled with satire and fun. It's been the demise of bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now and give perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right and achieves world needs. Guaranteed all your money back. Last time, ready?